While the cow stays out here in the needle dick here.
The story begins with Cath and Max, a couple looking to escape the noise of the city for a quiet weekend in a secluded cabin deep in the woods. The road was long, the directions confusing, but Max insisted on the trip. As it turns out, his reasons for rushing out there weren't as innocent as they seemed. When they finally arrive, Cath immediately notices something strange, another car already parked outside. That's odd. They rented the cabin for themselves. Moments later, a young man steps out and claims he and his girlfriend also booked the place online. Max confronts him, and tensions rise quickly. Voices get louder until Cath steps in, trying to calm things down. With nowhere else to go, Max pleads for just one night, saying Cath is exhausted from the drive. After a brief pause, the young man's girlfriend appears. Her name's Greta, and she reluctantly agrees to let them stay. Cath's instincts tell her this is a bad idea. She wants to leave, but Max convinces her otherwise, reminding her of all the adventures they've had together. Against her better judgment, she stays. Inside, the two couples start to relax. The strangers introduce themselves as Greta and Al, younger, edgier, and clearly going through something. The night unfolds with drinks, stories, and laughter. Then, Cath drops a bombshell. She first met Max when he was her student years ago, and their chemistry had been instant. As they talk, Max discovers a mysterious board game tucked away in the cabin. It's called Pillow Talkers, supposedly meant to reignite passion between couples. Curious, they all decide to play. But this is no ordinary game. Each card pushes them to do more personal and more disturbing things. As the game gets darker, Greta starts openly flirting with Max, and shockingly, he doesn't resist. He enjoys it, plays along. Embarrassed and upset, Cath excuses herself and goes to bed early. By morning, everything has changed. Max is gone. So are Greta and Al. Their car has vanished, and there's no phone signal. Panic sets in as Cath runs into the woods, searching for any trace of them, until she stumbles upon Al, sobbing. Between tears, he admits the truth. Greta ran away with Max. The man Cath loved had betrayed her overnight. Heartbroken and in disbelief, Cath drives home alone. Days turn into a week, and though the pain lingers, her anger starts to fade. Maybe she thinks the cracks were always there. Max chasing danger, her craving stability. But one question won't leave her mind. Who was Greta? Determined to find answers, Cath starts digging online, only to discover that Greta doesn't exist. No social media, no records, nothing. So, Cath turns her focus to the cabin. She contacts the owner, a man named Nicholas Barlow. At first, he refuses to share guest information, but Cath lies, saying she just wants to return a book Greta left behind. He softens and agrees to meet. When they meet the next day at Cath's nursery, she confesses everything. Surprisingly, Nicholas listens. Later, over coffee, he shows genuine sympathy, but still won't give her Greta's number. Instead, he offers to go with her to find Greta himself. Just then, a stranger recognizes Nicholas and greets him. Turns out Nicholas isn't just some cabin owner. He's a former biotech entrepreneur, the kind whose company was once worth millions. He'd even turned down a massive buyout offer from GlaxoSmithKline. Something about him feels off. Flashback to earlier. Back at Cath's house, during one of her parties, Max had talked about conspiracy theories, secret cult codes hidden in Spotify playlists. He once claimed that following one of those playlists led him to a shady warehouse where he bought a rare set of records. That was Max, always chasing danger, always drawn to the thrill of the unknown. And that thrill is exactly what led him to Greta. One day, he saw her and Al arguing in a supermarket. Their edgy, underground vibe fascinated him. So, he struck up a conversation. Greta liked his reckless side. Before long, she invited him to one of their mysterious gatherings. And that's where the story truly begins to unravel. Before long, Greta and Al led Max to their base, a strange underground hangout filled with heavy metal fanatics, flickering neon lights, and faces that didn't quite feel normal. The music was deafening, the atmosphere intoxicating, and the questions they asked were anything but casual. Are you 50? Are you vegan? Any cancer history in your family? Max laughed it off, thinking it was just part of their twisted sense of humor. But in reality, he was being evaluated, sized up like a specimen. Then Greta leaned in and whispered an invitation, a private concert, out in the woods. At that same cabin, she promised it would be unlike anything he'd ever seen. And she was right. The concert wasn't just music, it was a ritual. A storm of heavy metal, haunting chants, and something dark pulsing beneath every note. Cut to the present. Cath and Nicholas arrive outside Greta's building. During the drive, Nicholas finally opens up about his past. His father had died from a rare neurological disorder called synaptic hypertrophy right before Nicholas was about to sell his biotech company for millions. The tragedy shattered him, but it also gave him purpose. From that day on, he devoted his life to finding a cure. As they approach the building, Cath spots Greta entering. Without hesitation, she and Nicholas follow. They split up. Nicholas checks upstairs, while Cath searches the lower floors. That's when Cath discovers Greta's secret world. The place is filled with instruments, posters, and strange medical charts. It's the hideout of an underground metal band, and Greta is one of its lead members. When Greta notices Cath, she doesn't look surprised. Instead, she offers a cold, half-hearted apology for stealing Max, saying he'd already made his choice. Her tone makes it clear she doesn't regret a thing. Then, by accident, Greta drops her phone. Cath picks it up and freezes. The wallpaper shows Greta and Max together, smiling, happy. The betrayal hits like a knife to the chest. Shattered, Cath storms out. Outside, Nicholas finds her crying and tries to comfort her. He opens up about his own heartbreak, how his wife left him at 36, taking their son with her. It nearly destroyed him, but he learned to move on. And that's exactly what he tells Cath to do. That night, back home, Cath burns everything that reminds her of Max. His hat, his letters, his photos. Watching the flames devour those memories, she finally feels free. Days later, she visits Nicholas again, this time bringing an avocado tree as a gift. He smiles warmly, offers her coffee, and the two share a quiet, intimate moment. For the first time, there's a spark, a sense of peace, maybe even something more. But peace never lasts long. When Nicholas steps outside to gather firewood, Cath's curiosity gets the better of her. She begins exploring his home, and then she sees it. A photograph on the shelf, Nicholas standing beside Al. Her heart stops. Al is Nicholas's son. Panic takes over. She searches the house and finds a locked door. Using a set of keys, she opens it, and what she sees inside sends chills down her spine. Beds, 4 tubes, medical equipment, a lab hidden in plain sight. Stepping outside, she spots a strange metal container near the woods, and suddenly, everything starts to make sense. The film flashes back, revealing the horrifying truth. Greta and Al were in Nicholas's house all along. Greta was holding a medical file, trembling as she read it. Max wasn't just a random victim. He was a perfect genetic match. They hadn't kidnapped him out of jealousy or revenge. They'd done it for science. When Nicholas discovered what his son had done, he was furious, horrified by the line they crossed. But Al defended himself, shouting that he'd lived 23 years without his father and couldn't lose him again. The cure Nicholas had been chasing all his life now had a face. Max's face. Because Nicholas's condition was genetic, his son Al was also at risk. That belief, twisted as it was, became their justification. Their secret bound them together, trapping Nicholas in a web of lies. If the truth ever came out, all 3 of them would face prison. Meanwhile, in the woods, Cath crept toward the metal container she'd seen earlier. Her hands trembled as she used the stolen keys to open it. The moment the door swung open, her world shattered. Inside was Max, still alive, but barely. His body was covered in surgical cuts. Tubes snaked from his arms to hanging blood bags, slowly draining what little life remained in him. Cath rushed forward, crying his name, shaking him, pleading for him to wake up. But his eyes were unfocused, his words slurred under the haze of drugs. Then, footsteps. The door burst open. Nicholas, Al, and Greta stormed in. Nicholas tried to calm her down, insisting she didn't understand. He confessed that Max was being used as a donor, the source of blood transfusions that supposedly kept his condition in check. It was horrific, but before Cath could even process it, Greta stepped forward and dropped the real bombshell. She pulled out a medical document, proof that Nicholas had never been sick. There was no neurological disorder, no fatal condition. The transfusions weren't about survival. They were about vanity. Nicholas wasn't trying to stay alive. He was trying to stay young. Greta admitted she'd gone along with it because she wanted the same thing, eternal youth. Al stood frozen, his face pale as the truth hit him like a train. He had believed his father was dying. Now, he realized he'd been helping a monster. Nicholas, desperate and cornered, tried to justify everything. He begged Al to understand, saying he only wanted more time with his son. But the damage was done. Greta, cold and furious, turned to Nicholas and said what everyone was thinking. Cath had seen too much. She needed to be silenced. Thinking fast, Cath played her final card. She turned to Nicholas and said something that caught everyone off guard. She told him she wanted the transfusion too, that she understood him, that she, too, feared aging. That's why she'd been with Max in the first place. He made her feel young again. Then she glanced at Greta and whispered, maybe she should be the source instead. Greta's face went pale. Nicholas hesitated, then agreed. Al, torn but loyal to his father, followed his lead. Greta begged for mercy, but it was too late. Nicholas and Al restrained her, preparing the injection. As chaos broke out, Cath saw her chance. She grabbed a scalpel, freed Max, and tried to drag him to safety. But Max was too weak. His wounds tore open, blood spilling everywhere. Cath screamed, trying to stop it, but it was useless. Max bled out in her arms. The man she once loved, dying for someone else's sins. Sobbing, Cath stumbled out of the container. She locked the door behind her, trapping Nicholas, Al, and Greta inside. Then she ran, covered in blood, shaking, and completely broken. She made it back to her car and sat there in silence, her face empty, her hands trembling. Finally, she drove back to Nicholas's house. In the final shot, Cath stands by the window, staring out toward the distant cabin. The camera lingers on her blood-stained reflection, silent, motionless, unreadable.